welcome to the Anacortes City Council meeting of July 21st, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Hoagland, will you take the roll, please?
Mr. Fantini? Here. Mr. Young? Mr. Walters?
Here.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Here.
Ms. Moulton?
Here.
Mr. McDougall?
Here.
Ms. Hubick?
Here. Mayor Miller,
Ms. Moulton.
I move to excuse Mr. Young from tonight's meeting.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton, a second by Ms. Hubick to excuse Mr. Young. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, a couple of announcements for me. Just a reminder, if you probably know already, but Commercial Avenue Complete Streets Project Phase 1 began in earnest last week for the reconstruction of 11th through 13th Street, better known as the Safeway intersection. Commercial Avenue will be open during the construction, but will have reduced driving lanes, again, from 11th to 13th Street. Alternate routes to downtown businesses and State Ferry Terminal are signed, and the alternate route maps are available online. Next announcement, the Ace of Hearts Dog Park is closed. That started today. This will allow city crews to complete work on the stormwater detention pond inside the park. This work is allowed under the hydraulic policy approval permit from the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Weather permitting, this work will be complete by the end of the week. And again, just a reminder, this is to restore function of the detention pond and ensure that clean water goes into Asa Hart Creek. Next announcement, we're pleased to announce the draft Anacortes 2025 Comprehensive Plan has been released and is now available for review and comment. This plan outlines a vision for sustainable growth and development over the next 20 years and addresses key areas such as housing, transportation, environment, economic development, climate, and community services and facilities. Draft plan represents a big milestone planning for Anacortes' future. We value your input in this important process. Plan is available for review on our website, and comments will be received through the 28th of August. Email complan@anacorteswa.gov, or as always, planacortes.gov. Okay, that's all I have. Announcements and committee reports, Council. Public Works Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. The Public Works Committee met today at 5 p.m. It was Mr. Walters and myself and Public Works Director Andrew Rayum and Stormwater Manager Aaron Esterholt and also City Engineer Logan Lee. We talked about several topics, including the future format of the Traffic Safety Committee, and we tossed around a few ideas and talked about probably developing some parameters to bring to council to talk about what we would all like that to look like going forward. We had an update on the D Avenue project and the pedestrian safety improvements there and how they will, just by their shape and the nature of how the road is designed, will slow traffic down, which is definitely a plus. And that we will have some rapid flashing beacons there as well, quite a few for a safe crossing for people. And also talked about the crosswalk that is in design at 23rd and D that has been requested, and the one at 32nd halfway across from between Storvik Park and the Cap Santa Retirement Home. And those are both in design and also will definitely increase safety for pedestrians and car drivers and slow down speeds just by their very design. So those are always good things. And that was, we talked a little bit about the waste management contract that is coming before us tonight. So we'll delve into that more shortly. Thanks.
All right, any other announcements or committee reports I may have missed? Okay, next up is item 4, public comment. Any opportunity for any member of the public that wishes to address the council. Anything that's not on our agenda, and I've got a few folks signed up, and some of the things are on the agenda, some are not. So I'll go with the not on the agenda first. Bill Turner, Dog Park.
Hi, my name is Bill Turner. I live at 2012 I Avenue, Anacortes. And I'm just going to read you something I wrote, thinking about it, doing a letter to the editor. Last week, after several discussions with park staff, our Parks Department elected to draw outlaw wading pools for dogs used to cool during summer heat. Why? Their answers don't compute. It appears just one person complained about their dog getting wet. Duh. A lot of dogs love to get wet both for fun and for essential cooling in summer. So owners bring small wading pools for dogs and leave them for others, a practice that has existed since the park was opened 20 years ago. What's changed? Parks really won't tell us the truth. At first, it was a contamination of water and pool. This turned out to be untrue, as we learned that the wet dog was the real reason. A single complaint, no evidence of contaminants or disease. After that bogus reasoning was thrown out, then it was personal property not allowed. It seems that the lone person with the wet dog, at first he said his dog was drowning, has special rights. After I gathered numerous signatures from dog owners stating they want the pool, nothing has changed. This kind of autocratic behavior by city is non-productive and seems typical of our current city administration. My wife and I were members of FIDO, which is Fidalgo Island Dog Owners, who lobbied for Dog Park for 20 years ago. The park is an outstanding success. We dog owners have donated much time and money to improve the park as it gets used so much. 200 dogs and owners a week, at a minimum. Why would parks want to change what dog owners and owners at a minimum, why would they want to stop a park that gets used this much? Why would parks want to change what dog owners have already proved successful? We take care of our dogs, and we enforce the rules to protect dogs in the park itself. In fact, during COVID and after, the park provides a safe place for dogs and people to socialize and exercise. Please listen to park users. It's worked for over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Since I've got somebody else, Dog Park, Mark Robinson, you want to come up?
Apologize for my appearance. I just spent 3 hours in traffic coming back from Everett because of fires on I-5, so. Good morning, I'm Mark Robinson, 1907 KOA Anacortes, and I'll just read this, although it's in print. As you're well aware, many of the local dog owners who visit the Ace of Hearts Dog Park have expressed great concern at the newly revealed Anacortes Park Department rules stating there will be no privately provided dog wading pools at the off-leash fenced dog parks. John Lundford was kind enough to join us at the dog park a couple of weeks ago. We had a spirited, friendly discussion. He requested that we provide an MOA and a written discussion about our concerns with adding another fence directly surrounding any wading pool within the park. I wrote and provided these via email to John on July 3rd. As of today, we've received no response addressing our concerns. As we are entering the hottest part of our summer, those concerns are at the top of our minds. Without the use of the previously present wading pools, our dogs risk great harm as our daytime temperatures rise. Dogs like the ability to regulate body temperatures by sweating. Our pets have always enjoyed the option of cooling off in the wading pools, up until this year. Now they just suffer, thanks to the Parks Department unilaterally, without regard to the desire of the public, outlawing the life-saving wading pools. At present, the Parks Department is claiming that the wading pools are a health hazard due to the possibility of containing things like bacterial leptospirosis, parvovirus, giardia, coccidia, and probably some that I don't want to contemplate. Good news is Anacortes Water Department uses sodium hypochlorite to sanitize our drinking water, the source of the water for the wading pools. This chemical is used to disinfect food handling equipment, beer and wine production equipment, and biological warfare chemical handling equipment. It effectively kills any and all of the potential nasties that might be a problem in our wading pools. So sorry, Parks Department, keep looking for a legitimate reason. This one just won't hunt. We consider that our dogs suffering the heat to be directly the cause of the Parks Department banning of wading pools in the dog parks, despite a 20-year history of their being present without any of the problems they've brought up. The reasons provided for that ban, such as disease, dogfighting, or whatever else has been dreamed up, they've all been debunked. So at this time, we are notifying the City of Anacortes that any issues that our dogs encounter that we consider to be caused partly or wholly by the banning of wading pools would be considered the fault of the city. Washington law would consider this to be a second-degree cruelty offense. Reckless harm to the dog is noted in RCW as 16.50.207. So you're forewarned. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anybody else signed up to, you can send that to council if you wish. Okay. Anybody else want to speak on this issue? Okay. Well, thank you. And I know my staff is continuing to have a conversation to try to come up with a solution there. Okay, next, let's see. Not on the agenda, I've got electric ferry. I'm not sure what that word is, but Judy Billings?
So, Judy Billings, Anacortes, and I wanted to talk about the Guaymas Island electrification project. It was in the legal section of the Anacortes American. It's project number SDP 2024-0003, property owner Skagit County, applicant Skagit County Public Works Department. And this is a redo for the ferry dock area. So I'm asking for a do not approve. And I realize that the Anacortes City Council has nothing to do with the ferry. This is a Skagit County project for an estimated $50 million for a 5-minute project. This is a 5-minute crossing from Anacortes to Guaymas Island. This is like buying a Bentley to drive back and forth across the street. It's crazy. It is not a good idea to spend our taxpayer dollars this way. And I know a lot of the people on Guaymas, as far as I know now, there are 2 lawsuits against this ferry project. So I realize the City Council can't do anything about the purchase of the ferry, but allowing this project that includes a 2 to 3 megawatt BESS plant is so dangerous in downtown Anacortes. These BESS plants are known to catch on fire and are very difficult to put out. And I was really surprised that the fire chief, okayed this because they spread toxins when they catch on fire up to 5-mile radius of the plant. And there have been some really disastrous fires, not only in the United States, but around the world. And I don't know if you saw in today's news, but effective immediately, shipping line suspends EV cargo due to lithium battery fire concerns. Shipping and navigation services company Matson surprised customers in recent days by announcing new policies that halt all electric vehicles shipments due to fire risks posed by lithium-ion batteries. This comes after the morning Midas, a ro-ro carrier transporting EVs and hybrids, erupted in flames early last month in the Pacific and subsequently sank. The Shipping News website, the Maritime Executive, reports that Matson abruptly suspended the transport of EVs and plug-in hybrids, citing growing safety concerns over lithium-ion batteries in letters to clients. So, just one example. There are many, many examples of lithium-ion batteries and how dangerous they are. And to put this plant with 2 to 3 megawatts of lithium-ion batteries in downtown Anacortes is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous and dangerous, and a huge liability for the City Council, a huge liability for the City of Anacortes. So, the good news is that Elon Musk is inventing a new battery, a new electric battery that is not lithium-ion. And that's other news that came out just this weekend. It's, the new battery is a polymer battery technology. It's the next level. It increases energy density, more efficiency, and more power, and more affordable. 20% increase in energy, 50% less in cost, more efficient power resources, more efficient and safe energy storage. So my feeling is you really should wait and not okay this project until it's safer. So as I said, I think it's a real liability for the city and everyone in it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I think it's a similar topic because BESS, I believe it's Battery Energy Storage System maybe is the acronym, but anyway, Suzanne Rohner. And while I try not to memorize code, but if something's going to be built in the city limits of Anacortes and it's $50 million, it will come before council. So, but I can't control necessarily when because it's up to the developer. So please go ahead.
Just a question, if I comment now, am I allowed to comment on an agenda item?
Yes, we
Okay.
typically don't limit you to one item only.
Okay, thank you. Suzanne Rohner, Anacortes, and I'm just here to also oppose the BESS system. This was presented to the Planning Commission in May. They were the makers people that I think those are the people that are guiding you through the Growth Management Act and how to comply with that. They had what they call it a little bit of cleanup of language, and what they were trying to do is slip in language that would allow battery storage in Anacortes. And so I just want to say, I don't think it's been implemented yet, but I just want to say this is not something we want in Anacortes. As Judy mentioned, they catch on fire, they're dangerous, and there's no reason for us to have it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I've got tennis courts on here. That's not on our agenda. Maggie Miller.
Hi, my name is Maggie Miller. I'm an upcoming sophomore at the high school this year. Last year, I joined the girls' tennis team, and I ended up having a really good time just being part of the team and the environment it provided. I read about in the paper the proposition to paint pickleball court lines on our tennis courts, and I realized that I don't think that these high school tennis courts should be used for pickleball uses. I believe this because we already have varsity teams that will not play on our high school courts due to their quality, since we have air bubbles and rising tape and cracks that they don't like to play on. And even then, the JV coaches who come and play on our courts will only play typically on 4 of our 6 courts due to these issues. And the addition of adding pickleball court lines would further these actions of refusing to play against us on specific courts, which does not help our high school team. There are also available courts for those who wish to play pickleball in places like Clear Ridge and Mount Erie Elementary. And I feel that if the city is wishing to invest in pickleball courts, there are other ways to do it instead of taking the high school's courts and turning them into pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. All right, let's see. I think I've got David Hanson and Pat Barrett want to talk about the Metropolitan Pool District. So if you want to wait till then, okay. All right. Anybody else on anything who forgot to sign up? Okay. All right. We'll move on to our consent agenda, items 5A through D. Council.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. McDougall.
I move approval of consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDougall, a second by Ms. Hubick to approve our consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're on to other business. Item 6, first up, 6A. This is a contract amendment, residential recyclables and residential organics collection. This is a discussion item with possible action. and Mr. Rayum will kick it off. And
Mayor, Council, good evening. Andy Rayum, Public Works Director. I have with me Rion Janovich with Waste Management, WM, right? They just want to be branded as WM now. So she's here if you had any questions. She is on the learning edge of things, so we'll do our best to answer what we can, but she might need to come back and get you the answers from her management team. Okay, so we have two agenda items. One of them is pretty straightforward. The second one's a little more involved, and I'll need your direction. The first agenda item is to approve an amendment to extend the current contract we have with Waste Management for an additional year. Our anniversary date for our contract is July 1st, so it's not on January 1st, which would have been easier, but it's not. So we are under contract till July 1st of 2026. So this would extend it to July 1st, 2027. The reason this is before you, we already extended it 1 year administratively because it was in the contract. This one has to be renegotiated, and you're the body that negotiates with Waste Management. I do it on your behalf, but then we bring it to you to decide whether you agree to the terms. So this is an extension of the contract for an additional year. We need this additional year, especially if we are going to try to go out for requests for proposals from different haulers. They will need time to, hire people, build trucks, get the whole thing going. So I recommend you approve this. The catch is that on July 1 of 2026, so you won't see a CPI increase. The city won't see a CPI increase from Waste Management on January 1st, which is normal what we have. It'll stay the same until July 1 of next year. And then we will have a 6% increase. And then I believe in your packet that said that that's pretty comparable at this point, especially for the level of service we get. A lot of cities and counties have gone to it every other week kind of level of service to try to keep the costs down. So for what we're paying, for what we're getting is a pretty good value. But value is obviously in the eyes of the beholder. So that's kind of what I brought for this first part. This is just to approve the amendment to extend the contract for 1 year with a 6% CPI at the July 1, 2026.
okay, council, questions?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I think that this is very clearly the path forward here. We don't really have any other options. I think the next step is worthy of some further discussion, but for this agenda item, which is simply the extension by 1 year and the acceptance of that rate increase, I would suggest that this is what we have to do at this point. We can talk separately about how we accommodate the rate increase. I mean, we could do 3% and 3%. We do a couple of different things to our rates because we process the billing for this so that it happens in January instead of in July. It makes it more obvious what's happening for our customers. We could have that discussion a little later. But I would move that we authorize the mayor to sign this amendment as presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Walters and a second by Mr. Fantini to approve the contract modification as presented. Any additional discussion?
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton?
To Mr. Walters' point about when we institute the increase, I know we had this conversation when the county raised their tipping fees as well, so we'll have to consider things as we did then, so I look forward to that discussion as well.
And I think I'll make a comment for the public benefit. I know nobody likes to see a rate increase, but we did extend this contract last year. We got an additional year without a rate increase. So again, we're looking forward to working with whatever what the path forward. So, all right. Any additional discussion for council? Mr. Hoagland, would you take the vote, please?
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Ms. Hubick?
Yes.
Mr. Fantini?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I know Mr. Rayum highlighted this one, but 6B is residential commercial recyclables organics collection contracting. This is a discussion item with possible action.
Yep.
Mr. Rayum.
Thank you, Mayor. So this one's a little more involved. So we are at the end of a 10-year contract. We've now extended it 2 years with your action tonight. It's outdated. You just need a new contract. It's one of the older ones on Waste Management's roster. So you have an option. We have a decision to make as a community. The 6% CPI increase. My goal was with Waste Management was to ask them, like, basically give us your best shot with this contract amendment, so you can see from them, like, where are they gonna come at us with a 20% increase when they had the chance? So they didn't. So 6%, and then looking at our comparables, it's in your packet. Then the memo there that kind of showed what you're being compared to. So it's within line. Kind of with that good faith on the amendment, because they could have come and, we could have had a lot harder time. We being the staff would look to you for direction, but our recommendation would be to direct negotiate with Waste Management on a new 10-year contract. And then bring those contract provisions back to council. If you do have specific items that you're interested in having in the contract, now is a great time to express those, or you can email them to me later at a later time. And so we can kind of look into that as we negotiate a new contract. If you're not happy with the terms of that contract, we would still go out for an RFP, a request for proposal, sorry, and put it out there to see if there's any other haulers. I do want to caution, there's not a lot of appetite in this region for a hauler to come to kind of expand into Skagit County for just recycling and yard waste. So I don't know how competitive we'd be. We wouldn't know until we actually did it, but just kind of to approach or try the approach with Waste Management does save some staff time, which isn't a huge thing. I don't want that to be a big, like, oh, we should go that route for that reason, but it is less work for us to try to direct negotiate with our current contractor. So tonight I just need your direction on which way you'd like us to go, if you'd like us to start negotiating with Waste Management directly or to go out for a request for proposal from other haulers.
And maybe before council provides that direction, I do have this as an asterisk item. Any member of the public wish to comment on this one? Okay, you don't want to jump into the negotiation. All right, council, that's probably a good call.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
I'm not opposed to direct negotiating with WM for a new contract, but I do think that it would be worthwhile to have some additional discussion about length of the contract. Mr. Rayum suggests 10 years. That's what we had before. Maybe that's the industry standard. However, as we talked briefly about in our Public Works Committee prior to this meeting, there is this Recycling Reform Act at the state level that promises to change some things. Nobody really knows too much, or our staff, our council don't know very much about what that means for us, and we would like to maybe explore that in terms of what that might mean for amendments to the contract. In the past, we had raised the issue of, is there a way to get more people to divert their solid waste to compost, kitchen waste? Some people don't have yard waste bins because they don't have a lot of yard waste, but everybody's got some kind of kitchen waste, and they don't want a 96-gallon yard waste bin, nor the $17 a month charge for it. So how do we explore that? What can Waste Management offer in that way? I think there may be a number of littler things like that we could be talking about and asking WM for feedback on, or maybe asking for in the contract negotiation process, and maybe it'd be worthwhile spending some time in Public Works Committee, assuming it meets with the schedule here, to talk about some of those brainstorms.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Yes, the Recycling Reform Act that got passed this year in the state legislature is very complicated. It has a lot of moving parts. One of them we talked about already is a universal collection list that will apply across the state of Washington that will eliminate a lot of confusion. Another big part of it is that the producers will have a producer responsibility organization that is required to pay the costs of recycling, because municipalities, counties, organizations can no longer afford it because the costs keep going up and up and up. So that will be a very complicated years-long process to get going, but it's expected to be about 2030, I believe, where a lot of that really comes into play. Thank you. And that will affect how much cities are required to pay and how much constituents are required to pay personally for their recycling pickup. And those costs are projected to go down. So that would be something to consider as we think of the length of our contract. And so it'll be, I think, a vibrant, lively discussion about what the best way to approach that is, because there are a lot of unknowns of how this is going to play out in real life as the rulemaking continues and all the complexities are explored.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick.
I want to second what Councilmember Walter said, especially when it comes to organics. We have until April 1st of '27 for cities and counties with solid waste plans making year-round organic collection services available to all people. Bellingham has implemented something that makes it mandatory, and people are blowing up inboxes, just being frustrated with it. A lot of people out there already compost, or they have backyard chickens. A lot of people are single, retired folks in small homes, and there's no way that they can fill up even a 16-gallon container. So I would love to hear an opportunity for some creative solutions. I know that there are some places where like putting your yard waste into like a community receptacle is probably going to be kind of tricky, because like I have a vague recollection of the zero waste bins that were put out at festivals for yard waste and recycling. I don't remember seeing compost for that for a long time, because there's that cross contamination. But I would really, really appreciate hearing some kind of creative solutions to get that organics out of garbage, because, and I think I've said it before, all of that stuff, like food's water's heavy. If we can just divert that in and of itself, we're going to save probably 30% of our weight, because anywhere from 30 to 40% of stuff that's in the garbage is food waste that doesn't need to be in the garbage. So thank you for that.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
Yes, all of those things. Some other things I just thought of was, in the past, WM has asked us for a contract amendment for to allow for them to penalize users of the bins that contaminate the bins or overfill the bins. I don't think I necessarily have a problem with that, but maybe other people do. Also, we currently handle all the billing, but maybe WM would prefer to handle the billing. I don't know, but what do we want? I think it's pretty convenient to not have to pay WM directly like we used to, but maybe there's a significant benefit to the city. And then frequency of service. As Mr. Ayum mentioned, some jurisdictions are going to less frequent service. That's an inconvenience, but what does it save? Because, I mean, we know the price is going to go up, it always goes up. How could we cut the cost, and is it worth it? I mean, maybe there are multiple options here. Reduce frequency of just recycling and not yard waste, or vice versa. I don't know. But there might be a lot of different parameters that we should brainstorm and then think through.
Anything else? All right, it sounds like the council is okay with you working with Waste Management to negotiate. Obviously, any contract would come back to council for approval, but without objection, that's where we'll go.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next up is item 6C. This is an interlocal agreement with Fidalgo Pool and Fitness Center. Also a discussion item with possible action. And I know quite a few of you are here for this, but Ms. Swetnam will kick it off. Welcome to Council Pool Commissioners. Glad to have you here. And I've almost stalled enough for you to get your presentation up. Ms. Swetnam, when you're ready.
Almost. Close. Thank you, Mayor Miller, members of council, and members of the audience. So while this is pulling up, I just want to kind of start by saying that the questions related to this ballot proposition have been evolving over the last week. And the reason for that is that they're really important to get right. The resolution that, if council chooses to adopt it, would create this district and make some sort of long-term parameters for how it would have to function into the future. And so not only that, it's the city, it's the county, it's the Parks District. So you have 3 groups of electeds and their attorneys, and everybody has opinions, and there have been lots of ongoing conversations. I appreciate the collaboration with Eric and the Parks District, as well as Melinda Miller at the county as we've worked through some of these questions. The kind of bottom line is I'm not necessarily recommending approval of a resolution tonight, but thought it would be worthwhile to come back to you all and answer some of the questions that were raised last week and provide you with a status update on where things stand, as well as provide some of the pool commissioners who are here an opportunity to share their perspective as well. So that's the goal for tonight. So I wanted to one of the big questions that came out of last week's discussion was whether there could be a limit placed on the ballot language that would create kind of an upper levy amount that the district could impose. This is a lot of text on a slide, so I'm not going to ask you all to read it, but I thought it was worthwhile to highlight a few points. So Chapter 3561 is the chapter of the Revised Code of Washington that covers metropolitan parks districts. I'm not an expert in this particular chapter, but we've talked a whole lot about it over the course of the past week. And there's a provision in subsection 5 that says that a city, county, or contiguous group of cities, in this case the city, may limit the purpose and may limit the taxing powers of a proposed metropolitan park district in the resolution in cases where the metropolitan park district is being formed for specifically identified facilities. Subsection A there, I highlighted that the specifically identified facilities would allow the funding to be for providing acquisition, construction, renovation, expansion, operation, maintenance, and programming for the specifically identified public parks or recreation facilities. So that's sort of one path. And if that is the type of metropolitan park district that's going to be created by this ballot proposition, the city may limit the maximum levy rate, and the ballot proposition must state what that maximum levy rate is. Subsection 6 goes on to say that nothing prevents a city from proposing formation of a metropolitan park district that is not limited. So after talking with the county's attorney and the Parks District's attorney, sort of breaks down into 2 different types of metropolitan parks district, a broad purpose or a limited purpose metropolitan parks district. For a broad purpose parks district, the funds can be used for any allowed purpose. This allows for any purpose that's allowed under that chapter. This allows for more flexibility into the future, and per the district, this would be the preferred type of district to create. They're thinking into the future about things like acquiring other facilities into the future. That would, be a problem if it were a limited purpose parks district for the existing pool structure. In that case, if it is a broad purpose parks district, the district's attorney's opinion is that the city should not, per the statute, be able to limit the maximum tax rate. Now, if the Met Park District is being formed for a limited purpose, again, that's to provide funds for all of those things, acquisition, construction, renovation, et cetera, with respect to a specific facility. In those cases, the city may limit the maximum tax rate and must, in fact, do that in the ballot proposition language itself. So you all can see why there's, sort of a choose your own adventure here that we have to get right before we have the ballot proposition language, because those parameters are going to have long-reaching implications for the district. So I sent you all an updated version of the resolution this afternoon, which has sort of been overtaken by events in light of the conversation that I had with the district's attorney after I sent that out. But I wanted to pull this up just to share some answers to some of the questions that were raised last week. There was a question about whether we could remove the reference to this being a joint proposition And the response from the county was no, because it's not a statement of endorsement of the proposition, but it is a description of the fact that this is a proposition that's being adopted for placement on the ballot by 2 taxing agencies jointly. So the county's opinion was that that language needed to stay in the proposition itself. This last sentence here, the district would levy a maximum property tax rate for 2027 of 12 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. That was based on a conversation with Eric Dolan, that's what the district plans to do. But they're now asking that there not, in fact, be a limit in the ballot language so that they can move forward with that broad purpose Metropolitan Parks District. I did also look into the question about whether we should include language in the ballot proposition that talks about the current district dissolving. And the thought process there is that this is about creating a new district, and this ballot language can't restrict a current taxing district. And in fact, there is a process where the current Parks District would agree to turn over the assets to the new Metropolitan Park District. So I don't think there's any question about whether that happens, but that it's not appropriate for placement in the ballot language itself.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
On that last point there, the ballot language doesn't mention in anywhere that this is all done at the request of the existing pool district?
That's true.
Is there room or possibility of including such language?
I think there is the possibility of including that in the ballot. You can see that there's a bunch of words taken out here, like the, and things that were superfluous, because we do have a word limit on ballot propositions. We got to get it down to 75 words. I think there's a little bit of leeway, especially if council were amenable to taking out the limit on the tax rate. Then we could put language in there that this is being done at the request of the district.
You know how many words you're at now?
I believe this is 68.
Okay, somewhere in there.
So we got 7.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. Ms. Swetnam, so what's presented in front of us at this moment says both broad purpose and the maximum rate. So those 2 things are mutually exclusive, right?
Well, that is the most recent opinion that I got from the district this afternoon after I drafted that.
Okay.
So it's got to be a limited parks district, or it's got to be a broad purpose parks district. And if it's a broad purpose parks district, then sounds like we need to remove that language that talks about that limit. So
Thank you.
So I debated whether to share this with council because I don't want to make it more confusing than it needs to be, but thought that it answered some of the other questions. So thanks for clarifying.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to either answer questions or turn it over. I know that the district maybe wanted to share some thoughts based on last week's discussion as well.
Sure. We'll take if any of the commissioners or the executive director wants to jump in, and then I'll make sure the folks that signed up also get a chance. And you still have to state your name and where you live, please.
Jeremy McNett, Anacortes, Pool Commissioner. I'll answer any questions.
Oh, okay, he's just coming up to answer questions.
Whatever you
Council
want.
likes this. All right, Council.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
I think the gist of our discussion last week was around what bookends could we put on the ballot language to make the ballot proposition different from what failed before and more palatable to people that have concerns about what the new metropolitan recreation district could end up doing.
Yeah.
So is the pool commission, or maybe you specifically, amenable to any of those changes, or do you just want to try again with the original language?
No, I think we are. I think the confusion about what the facility is trying to do is tied into a new facility, right?
Sure.
So this measure puts us into a perpetual funding, right? So this is for operations and maintenance. This is not for a new facility, okay? 2021, we went out for a levy. We were approved at 11 point something cents. And right now, we're at roughly 9.5 cents. We haven't been increasing it our 1%, okay, as an example, right? So when we met last week, we felt that the 12 cents was enough to cover not only our current operations and maintenance, but any long-term planning that we need to do. For instance, if we need to, replace a pool liner, we can budget that in, right? So this measure that we're trying to put forth has got nothing to do with a new facility. It's operation maintenance of the existing facility. It allows us to, if we need to go out and get a loan for replacing the pool, for instance, in terms of the liner that we're currently maintaining as best as we can, then we can do that. Right now, a bank won't lend us money because we are, every 6 years, not sure if we're still going to be in existence. Does that make sense? Right. So we felt putting the bookend on this at the cap at 12 cents is fine. What we're not clear about now, which I think came up today, wherever Darcy went, was whether or not we want to be a broad or a single facility. Right. So I think that's where we're a little bit confused at the moment. We're trying to get the attorneys to hash that out.
Do you have actual aspirations to run facilities other than the pool? And
well, we own other buildings, so I think some of the questions are, do those buildings quantify as needing to be the broad or not, right? So I think that's the concern.
So if the limited purpose could be construed to be the pool and the other stuff on site at the pool there, the fitness center,
Well, there's also homes that we have. The property that the senior center is on is ours. The building, of course, is the city's. So I think there's some things that need to be understood a little bit about whether or not
But
qualifies.
we could write that purpose as broadly as you wanted and still have it be limited, assumedly?
That's above my intelligence level there.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here because just for everybody's awareness, there was, up until 20 minutes before the meeting, we were trying to resolve some of these issues. And I don't think the pool district is asking for council yes or up or down tonight.
I think
we still have
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Waiting a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
These are
no,
questions that we
I
have as
want to
well.
make sure that you're saying you're waiting a week because we don't think we have the big questions answered yet.
I'm happy to answer your big questions.
Okay, limited versus not.
Those questions we need
Yeah,
the
that's a really
time,
important
yes, to
question
get the
because
answers to, of course.
that ties to what council can do as far as the language on the ballot.
Yeah.
Okay, council.
Mayor Miller? Oh, sorry.
Well, no, you got to speak, Mr. Fantini.
I'm ready to speak. I just had a question, and this is probably more for Ms. Swetnam. I'm just trying to understand the difference between the broad purpose and the limited purpose, because it sounds like limited purpose, maintenance, for instance, of pool, which I would assume includes liner, would be identified, therefore requiring a statement of the actual tax. Is that?
Well, so good question. I think Mr. Walters, again, it relates to Mr. Walters' point about drafting the special purpose in a way that's hopefully broad enough to, cover any kind of ongoing maintenance or whatever of the pool. I think the question that, and I'm not trying to speak for the district or their council, but what I understood from my conversation with the district's outside counsel was that they want to make sure that there aren't any unintended consequences of limiting that purpose to one special facility. If there happened to be something that came up in the future that was outside of what was articulated in that special district language, what are the risks of that? And, that's fair for them to work with their counsel to work through those questions before they're willing to, to say that. And it may be, when we come back next week, the answer is, it's fine to have a limited purpose Met Parks District, but I can certainly respect and understand the district's position that they want to be really sure about that before that commitment is made in the proposition language. That answers your question.
Okay, so they could, if they moved forward, and this is all, I guess, cart before the horse, but if they did move forward with a limited purpose, and let's say something came up where they wanted to acquire a new building, they would then have to go back before the voters again with a new resolution, or once you settle this, it's settled?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think those are the types of questions, though, that they want to have an opportunity to really explore. And
okay,
so,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleve McGrath.
Thank you. Thank you, pool folks, for coming today to answer some more questions. I watched last week's meeting because I wasn't able to attend. But just to kind of go back, the broad versus limited purpose, and correct me if I don't remember this accurately, but the last time it was on the ballot, the intent was so that there would be permanent committed funding for maintenance for the pool that wouldn't sunset at that 6-year mark and have to go back on the ballot. This is the opportunity to be able to have committed income through property tax in perpetuity.
Correct.
I guess my question is then, because from what I've heard from folks, and I have this question too, is fine, but at what point, what is the mechanism if and when it's determined that the Fidalgo Metropolitan Recreation District wants to build a new pool? Would that then, at what point, what mechanism is it to then go out to the voters if it is a larger new project?
Yeah, we would absolutely have to go out to the voters for a bond, absolutely.
So then, if the tax rate isn't included in this proposition, at what point is that tax rate determined? Is it after it's been passed on the ballot and it goes to the pool commissioners?
So my understanding is if we had a resolution and you're allowed to cap it for this initial startup.
Right.
Let's say 12 cents. Then we could, when we do our funding in the fall, or our budgeting, okay, that we send to the county in the fall for the next years, we could go up to that 12 cents. We might not need to go up to that 12 cents, okay? This is really just operations and maintenance, right? If we go through planning and decide, hey, we need to get plans and we need to get bids on what a new facility would cost, and if it's, let's say, $35, $40, $50 million, we would have an idea of the size, we would be able to forecast and budget what an operations and maintenance levy would be. We would go out for a bond for a new pool, and if we needed to, a levy lift. I'm not saying we would need to do a levy lift with a new pool. The existing O&M that we have right now could remain unchanged, okay? Mm-hmm. It's the bond for the new pool that's a separate issue from this. The Met Park District would allow us, we would have dedicated funding, okay, to continue doing that. We could go into a new facility knowing we could, take care of it, if that makes sense. Okay?
So I think that's helpful for the public and for at least me on council, is that the purpose of this is for maintenance and operations.
It's maintenance and operations.
Forever, no matter what type of facility
Correct.
is in operation. If and when there was a potential future new building or new pool, that would be a separate bond issue that would have to go out then for
Absolutely.
a vote.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's how I thought I understood it, but it's just nice to
This is not a vote for a new pool. This is a vote to make it so that we don't have to come back every 6 years and ask the voters to continue funding the operations and maintenance of the pool in a state of readiness. Okay?
And it helps just be able to forecast and do planning.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. I think some of the clarity around the current levy and what's expected is really helpful and one of the big questions. So my understanding last week, I thought it was 8 cents, but now it's...
So I believe right now, and somebody will correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 9.5 cents-ish.
Okay.
We're approved for up to a little over 11 cents, okay? So over the years, as property values go up, the mill rate has actually gone down. So the mill rate is actually not, it's important, but it's not the primary, right? We put together our budget, we go to the county, and then the mill rate is kind of created based on our budget against the value of the properties in the district. Does that make sense?
It does. It is confusing, this property
very
tax
confusing.
question. We have this discussion every fall, and
I've
it's
been a
always
commissioner
confusing.
We bring Danny
many,
Hagan
many,
in
many
on
years,
it.
and I'm just now figuring it all out as well. So it is very confusing. So just for everybody's, if anybody needs the information, we're happy to share it, because it is very confusing.
Right, and I think getting out in front of people this week is really helpful, and people that can watch this meeting later who are not here, because this is part of the big question. So now we know it's roughly 9.5 cents.
Correct.
And that every year, currently, and in the future, if the new district is approved by the voters, then you'll start with a certain rate, say it's 12. You have to determine that rate, though, at some point this year, right?
Yeah, yep, I'll answer
And
that.
then from then on, it's 1% per year without a vote of the people.
If we take it. And we
If
haven't
you
been-
decide to
if
take
we
it,
take
exactly,
which we
just like
have-
the city.
We've been very good with the money. We have not taken that rate, which is why the current rate is lower than the allowed rate. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's
Okay.
helpful too, because
Yeah.
these are all pieces
Yes.
of information.
We don't want our taxes to
we
go up
didn't know.
either.
Right, okay.
So to kind of go back to your other question, if this is passed, it would go on a ballot and you would be voting for the district as well as new commissioners and a special on the same kind of ballot, right? So January 1, you'd have new board commissioners that would then set the rate up to that 12 cents. So
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, unless it's a limited purpose, because then, in that case, the public would vote on it before, in order to approve it, it sounds like. But maybe all this is gonna come back to us. Okay, Ms. Swetnam's nodding, so, okay,
Mayor Miller.
thank you.
Just want to make sure other council members have an opportunity.
Thank
Mr.
you.
McDougal?
Yeah, I just had a really quick question. Let's say it does proceed with the limited purpose, and so you've got this language around like a maximum rate. And let's say a few years down the road, you come across like this tremendous opportunity to expand the purpose because we're going to get into the hockey business or something like that. Does then, to accommodate that, is it just a reformation of the Metro Pool District, like a new?
So this is operations and maintenance. This is not capital, build a new pool, right?
No,
So
not
if
the point
for
of-
some reason, the things we can't control. So the number one thing is the 1% a year. Yes, we can raise it 1% a year. Inflation is 2.5 to 2.9 in the state. So we're not even keeping up with inflation. So our biggest bills, salaries and utilities. If the utilities go up, if minimum wage goes up, then, you know, those are things we need to budget in. But we're only capped at that 1%, right? So if we needed more for our operations and maintenance, we would have to go back out to the public and do a levy lift, right? Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I guess I wasn't really asking about a capital thing, more like
Yeah.
you know, had an opportunity to take over operations of, say, some other activity entirely, like using a silly example, hockey, but would that would not actually fall under the limited, I guess, arrangement here, because it is fairly defined to existing facilities and pool.
I would have to talk to the attorney about that, because now we're talking about the broad versus the single, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the unresolved, that
Yeah.
we're not going to resolve this
Right.
evening is the broader limited, and we need a little more time to get what we're
But that doesn't
allowed
have
to-
anything to do with the O&M. So the O&M would stay the same. There's no change in O&M, even if we acquire another property, right?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense, thank you.
All right, Ms. Hubick, only one if you're, okay. Mr. Walters.
It is a bit confusing, and the legislature is at fault for some of that. Not for creating the confusion, but for not fixing it after the initiative that threw the wrench in the works. But the one important point, I think, is that 1% you're talking about is not 1% of the millage rate. So the rate wouldn't go from what it is now at 9.5 to plus 1% now at 10.5. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the total amount of money brought in would raise 1% if you take that option. And the millage rate may go down because it's based on that division into the property values within the district. So I think that's an important point, and one that can get confused really easily. I think I have at least two remaining questions, mostly for the city attorney that probably you're not able to answer now, but maybe you can queue them up to get them answered for next week. One, are we certain that the district could do a levy lid lift beyond the 12-cent limitation that's in the proposition creating the district at some point in the future?
I am not certain of
Okay,
that.
yeah.
I assume because that's sort of the standard mechanism for, once you set a limit, I know that there's a statutory limit of 75 cents. And so I would assume that they could do a levy lid lift, as long as they weren't bumping up against that 75-cent limit that's in the statute. But I think that's a question that we're happy to verify.
Yeah, I think it's important for both entities to know if that is even possible. I mean, it would go to the voters, but if it's not possible, that might leave the pool in a bad position. And corollary to that, I think it's important when the district talks about going out for a bond, that would in all cases be a voted bond for a new pool. So it would be an item that appears on some future ballot if they were to pursue that. This really continues to be about having a stable source of funding that you can rely on, that you can get a loan against to do any maintenance other than doing a one-year reoccurring maintenance task. So it remains, in my judgment, a good idea because a lot of money gets wasted when you don't have certainty that you're going to have that money next year. It's just putting these parameters around it. So that brings me to my second question. Does it have to be a limited purpose? Because that is not obvious to me from the read of the statute. The statute says the jurisdiction can limit it to limited purpose and limit it the tax amount. It doesn't say you have to limit both. So do we have or can we get some additional information that convinces us that that's the right read of the statute?
Yeah, so good, that's a good question. And this is the question that Melinda Miller and I at the county have been talking about and talked with the district's representation about today. And, I think that's their initial read on it, but they would like to spend some time digging into it a little bit more. And, my kind of communication to them is that the city is going to rely on what their interpretation is of the statute. If they feel like, that's limiting, I don't know that, it makes sense for the city to say, well, we disagree, we're going to interpret it differently.
No, but it makes our job easier it makes all of our jobs easier if that's not the right read, if a legal read is just, we can limit the tax rate. Because then we would go forth and limit the tax rate and not have to worry about listing every building that they
And I
want to build.
believe that we will have more clarity on those questions next week.
Okay.
So I think that, this week has been drilling down to the right questions
Yeah.
and kind of moving forward down that path of getting those answers. And I know that there's an urgency and everyone involved is aware of the fact that, getting this to the county by, I think it's August 4th or 5th, is kind of the timeline here to allow them to be a part of the general election in November. And so, I anticipate that we'll be able to answer that question better next Monday.
But that was the question that drove the discussion. Limited versus broad determines, again, my interpretation of the lawyer's interpretation at this point in time is that that sets what council can do as far as the language in the ballot.
Yeah, I mean, my initial read on it was, I don't see that it necessarily says that you can't have a broad purpose and a limit on the tax rate. But again, I was sort of relying on the district's attorney's read on that, so.
All right, so every council member has had an opportunity. I've got a couple people that signed up to talk on this issue. Good luck if you want to join in on this one. Well, you might have to, you offered to answer questions, so I have David Hansen signed up first. And name and city, please. Again.
Well, my name is David Hansen, and I live in Anacortes. I'm the treasurer for the Friends of Fidalgo Pool and Fitness Center, which is an independent 50c3 organization that supports the pool and its programming. I support the commissioner's proposal for this resolution. I think it makes sense to stabilize the funding for the pool's operations and maintenance, and especially in light of the aging facility and the need for future capital investments. A lot of new information was shared tonight, but I guess I would like to to say that I think it's really important to agree for the city and the pool to agree on a maximum tax levy rate, because that will take care of or remove an uncertainty that a lot of voters didn't like.
Thank you. Next, I've got Pat Barrett.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oop, look at that. Got to speak in the microphone, even my loud voice. Good evening. My name is Pat Barrett. I live at 1201 5th Street. I'm here to just comment on this metropolitan district and just clarify a little bit of history. Number one, in the newspaper, I don't know where it came from, there was noted that the pool levy has never failed. It has failed. It failed 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, there was a large group of volunteers who were ex-lifeguards or swimmers, I being one of them, that volunteered our time to keep the pool open for a year, so we had lifeguards. So the risk of not doing a metropolitan district is out there. It's serious. The pool is one of the things that we as a community can do from a government standpoint that the public or the private sector cannot do. That's our job, or the community's job from a government level, is to support those kinds of things, the things that the public or the private sector cannot do. A couple of things also that was never clarified in the original workup, if you will, the original communication that the pool district had, was what we need to understand is that this pool district does not include Guaymas Island. So the pool gets no tax revenue from Guaymas Island. Yet Guaymas Island residents use the pool significantly. They come across, they pay an extra fee to use the pool. But when we're talking about mill levies, a mill levy is, those of us understand mills, if it's $1 million mill levy and you have 1,000 houses in it, you have 1,000 houses paying into $1 million. But if it's $1 million mill levy and you have 1,100 houses in that district, you have 1,100 people paying into the same amount of money. So all things being equal, if they never raised the dollars that they needed to run the organization, the residents of Anacortes, the people who live in the city, would have a reduction in their tax because the people of Guaymas would help fund the pool. Now, it may not make the people of Guaymas happy, I understand that. A lot of them are friends of mine, they'll get over it. Where'd I hear that? Anyway, so the bottom line is, we as a community need to support the pool. The pool cannot do what it needs to do if it doesn't know what its funding is every year. There's not a banker I know out there that's going to fund you if you got to go back to the residents every 2 or 3 or 4 years and beg and plead and put a mill levy out there and hopefully it'll get it passed. Let's move beyond that. Figure out the details of this. You guys can figure it out between them. Let's move forward and fund this metropolitan district and put it to bed. And with a little bit of work on the part of the commission, the pool commission, it'll pass this next time. It missed by 3 votes. Okay. So let's do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else who didn't get a chance to weigh in on this? Sure, okay, come on up. And then the gentleman in the back, you go next.
Linda Martin, Anacortes. Thank you for all the work that has happened so far, and I appreciate the fact that the council is looking into this. I'm saddened by the fact that the other attorney says we can't change the language, but I appreciate what Mr. Walters is saying. Maybe we can put some language that shows that it's not just a great idea that everybody on the council wants to have happen and everybody in the county wants to have happen. I think it it isn't right to show that you are the ones in favor. But let's just get down to just really the basics. What's the problem that the pool is trying to solve? Well, the problem is that they want to make sure that they have stable funding. I understand that. So they failed a levy 30 years ago, but every levy since then has passed. And we have a community that's very much in favor of the pool, I think. We have things like school districts that have to rely on the community to vote. And now we have the community voting for the pool. And it doesn't seem to me like that's really the problem. What the problem is, from my perspective, whether it's a broad metropolitan district or a limited district, the problem is that we're taking away our community's ability to vote. And I would be in favor, even if you want to go 12 cents, that's a 30% increase. I probably would still vote in favor of that. But if you vote for a metropolitan district, I will lead the charge to vote against that, because I don't want to ever give up my right to vote. And I think that's really the problem. They want to extend the taxing district to the poor people of Guimas Island that really don't want to be extended. That is an issue as well, but the real reason for me is you're taking away my right to vote. So that's it.
Thank you. And I should have reminded everybody that we're not going to have pro and con on the validity of whatever ballot, the purpose of council's action, because that's a violation of the Public Disclosure Commission and state law. If you have some comments on this, this needs to be about the council putting it on the ballot and perhaps the language there. So please stick to that. All right. With that, are you still willing to come and testify? Because I will stop you if you talk pro and con about the ballot. We're talking about whether council puts it on the ballot or the potential language there.
Malcolm McCutcheon, Anacortes. Once this current pool district is dissolved, if this passes, does that affect the lease with the city on the senior center? That was just a question. And looking at the proposed park, I can't remember what it says, but nowhere in there does it say pool. People talk about a pool resolution and stuff like that, but I can't find the word pool in there. That's my only thing is, if we're going to put a resolution on the ballot, it should say what it is. I looked at it, by reading that, I'm thinking, oh, we're going to expand the park district and to have more city parks or whatever, but I think it needs to have the word pool.
All right, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Oh, yeah, come on up.
Barbara Smart, Anacortes, and my big mystery on this whole thing is, what are you finally going to charge us for our taxes? And you say, oh, 12 cents per thousand. And then you come up and still say, where is that mythical, how often can they raise this? Are they going to raise it 1%? Or was it going to be, I thought I heard in there another, maybe another 12%? What's 24% tax increase? Anacortes has a lot of poor people in this city that if you start raising their say the tax on their houses, how many of them are going to get to stay here? And a lot of them may use the pool, but I admit there's a lot of really wealthy people in this city and a lot of people with good jobs. But there's also a lot of people that you start adding another 12%, and then we've got the hospital taxes are going to go up. We're going to start raising our things. Pretty soon, how are you going to even afford to live here? So you got to decide, and this 12%, it's like, I thought the broad purpose said the city can't limit the metropolitan tax rate. The limited, I thought you were saying, said the city may limit the rate. Well, I would prefer to have the may limit rate, where if the city has no capability of stopping the metropolitan district from raising their taxes however they want, that's not fair for the general public. I like voting on things, and I like knowing what I'm going to say, but so far, unless you clear up what the tax increase is, you're going to get a whole lot of people just saying, oh, I think it's best to say no, because you haven't been, well, hopefully you will be clear what the tax rate is going to cost us. But it's got to be much clearer, and otherwise it's going to go down in flames like it did last time. I mean, again, it was only, was it 10 votes? Well, that was because a lot of people didn't want to have their taxes raised. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Fantini?
Just one quick question. If something, God forbid, catastrophic, the metropolitan district happens and something catastrophic happens to the pool, does the district just go away, or it's still intact? Does that kind of make sense? Like, does the district cease to exist if something were to happen and the pool were to close?
If the pool no longer was in existence, I
Yes.
mean, there's always, I mean, districts can go away.
But does that happen, like, if the pool closes, does the district just go away?
Yeah, I don't think the district just like automatically goes away. But if there is a, you know, if there's, and it probably depends a little bit of whether we're talking about a limited purpose district or a general purpose district. If it's a general purpose district and, you know, the pool's no longer there, then it's going to be up to the electeds. So this would create, just similar to how it is now, a board of 5 commissioners that would be the legislative body of the taxing district. And so it would be up to them to determine what would happen if there was a catastrophic failure at the pool and that was no longer a viable facility. So, you know, there are mechanisms where, you know, a taxing district, if the purpose for which it was created is no longer in existence, that they can, you know, cease to exist. But I don't know that that would be kind of an automatic light switch that would turn off. That would be up to that, you know, legislative body to work through whatever those challenges were and potentially, you know, terminate or find something else to, I don't know. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Again, because we know there's some staff work to do. And I think that leads into the D. There isn't anything 6D, which is the interlocal or the resolution itself. I think
we hashed through that.
I don't think we need any more there. So unless council objects, we'll bring C and D back next week, because that is the timeline. Is that our last date to make the cut to get it to the county?
I believe so.
Should council choose to do that?
Yep, I think that's right. And I know that the Skagit County Board of Commissioners are going to be considering their resolution on the 28th as well. So there will be a strong push to have good, solid answers to all of these questions and good guidance for council next week.
We knew it would be tight to get it for this one, and we almost got there. So we'll have it all for council to decide next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, great discussion. And next, and the final item on the agenda is item 6E. This is City Council Committee structure, discussion with possible action, and the staff contact is Ms. Shu, so I'll try to cover for her here, just real quick, summarizing mainly for the public. I think council knows the issue, but June 2025, the council held a retreat with the mayor and department heads And some members of council expressed interest in revisiting council procedures with particular focus on the structure of council committees. And there was a consensus from that retreat that this matter should be brought forward for discussion at a future council meeting. And I think the outcome, I believe, and ultimately it's up to council, but whether we create some sort of ad hoc committee to look into the council procedures. So with that, I'll turn it over to council.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Fantini.
Thank you. We had a great retreat discussion, and I did suggest at that time to possibly form an ad hoc committee, or have the mayor pro tem form an ad hoc committee to study council procedures and then bring that back to the full council for further deliberation. But the more I have kind of thought about this, the whole purpose for revisiting this committee structure was because, at least from my perspective, was because I felt we all have, 7 very distinct different voices and different brains to put around a variety of topics. And I kind of wonder if there seemed to be a lot of agreement that there are some things that need to be refined in our council procedures. I would like to see discussion around committee structures. I think Mr. Walters had submitted a memo at our retreat as well to the council that had some ideas in it. I kind of feel like rather than maybe even committing an actual, or creating an actual committee, maybe our best course of action here is to do what we've done earlier this year on a difficult topic, and to have a single agenda item work session with all 7 of us, have all of our opinions brought to the table, and see what we as a body of 7, having our varied experience, can come up with for changing our council procedures. It would be, of course, a public work session where I know the public wouldn't necessarily be allowed to comment, but they would be able to see what we're deliberating. I also think that it would be a really good idea to hear from staff on how they feel about the current committee structure, and do they have ideas? Do they have a very big pro and con belief? Because I know it will very much affect them as well. We could certainly do studies at a committee level, which again was kind of my initial thought, but maybe this is a process that the 7 of us should be working on together.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
I think that probably we can all agree that there are at least some things in the council procedures that we need to update. So I think Mr. Fantini's suggestion that we have a study session dedicated to council procedures would be a good one. I've made a list, Mr. Fantini's made a list. Maybe we could set this date in the future and then have other people make a list. I know Ms. Swetnam submitted a list. So we got multiple lists. Maybe some staff member could consolidate those lists into one big list with numbered items. We could go through them and say, hey, 1 through 7 sounds great. Number 8, this committee of the whole thing requires further discussion. 9 through 10, we don't want to do. Maybe knock out some of the easy ones, but then proceed to the ones that need more discussion, and then have staff eventually generate a revised draft that we could vote on at a future meeting. I think that sounds like a perfectly good approach, and I think, if I recall correctly, it might be kind of what we did last time we did this, which was 6+ years ago, I think.
We're getting a lot of head nods for the pivot from the ad hoc committee to I almost said council of the whole committee meeting. No, I didn't say that out loud. Work session. So yeah, we can look to schedule that.
I'm just curious if anybody else has any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like there was a lot of disagreement with that.
Mayor Miller.
Yeah, Ms. Hubick.
I think that this is a great idea. It's not going to impact me for the next 4 years, so I have a lot of opinions that I'm happy to share. But we've also been having conversations like at the fiber level, now that we're not doing build-outs, is this something that gets rolled into the finance committee or something? I mean, I feel like it's a conversation that's been naturally happening. And so getting all of us to sit down and just talk about that. There's also like optics to consider. Do we want to talk about something about term limits? You know, do you sit on a committee no more than 2 consecutive terms? We've got rules around that for Mayor Pro Tem. Do we do that for committees? So I think that everybody making a list and checking it twice and sending it over would be really, really good, and we should have it done in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I'd like to have it done sooner rather than later personally.
There we go. I like seeing a time stamp on that so we can start working to schedule that in. All right. Other thoughts, Council?
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton?
I like the idea of involving staff too, because it very much affects them, and sometimes we don't involve staff to the extent that I think that we should. So there's that, and we've talked about things like absorbing the HACS committee into the planning committee. We're talking about the traffic safety committee. So I think, of course, this is a living document and it bears revisiting, and we all do bring different ideas and different brains to the conversation, and I think that that would be good going forward. One thing that we did discuss the last time we did this, I believe it was the last time, was there were going to be a certain amount of council meetings that council members were allowed to miss at all, excused or not. And I think we settled, Ms. Cleland McGrath might remember, because I thought it was like 12, I don't remember, but somehow that never made it into the council procedures. And I would like to revisit that as well, because it was something that we had voted on. And I don't think it was unanimous even, but we had voted on it and passed it. So anyway, yes, that's a long way of saying that I think that it's time to delve into these and have some conversations.
Great, a great one to add to the list. And I'm trying to stay out of it as somebody who was on council for 8 years. But I appreciate Ms. Moulton's comment about staff, because when this topic came up before the retreat, I certainly talked to all of the directors about certainly the council of the whole and being able to communicate to all the council at one time. So you don't have the telephone. Not that your council reports aren't fantastic every single time, but sometimes it doesn't relay exactly what the directors want. But again, that's one aspect. I guess I'm concerned about trying to set this up to make it a successful workshop. And we as staff have kind of separated out the council committee stuff from the council procedures, like what can you present when you're speaking to council. So I'm not sure we could do all that at once. We can try, but I think for council, get your lists together is the best thing, and then we'll try to, the staff will continue working on the list. Thoughts on that?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. McDougall?
Yeah, actually, I think you make a great point that there is probably a significant amount of discussion or workshopping just involved in committees and committee structure, and how that, obviously we want to be able to have some bounds around that, but also preserve the ability to be flexible to adapt in the future. Then there is just straight council procedures. So I think it's kind of worth looking at both. If we can't get both in a single workshop, maybe we just spill over into a second one.
All right. No, that sounds good. We'll attempt to bring them both.
Yeah,
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in agreement with the majority of what has been said so far. I think that it would be a good opportunity when we talk about our committees to have that input from staff, because I do know that committees and the subject matter ebbs and flows. Some really have a ton of work to do for periods of the year or for a few years at a time, and then they kind of recede. But I also think that it would be helpful. We've got a lot of new directors, that we all kind of have an agreement about what the directors should expect from council members' attendance at those meetings. And then what we should expect. Sometimes we get meetings that are just kind of like a download that could be an email. Other times we have really robust discussions. It's not always going to be the same each time, but I think that setting those expectations, and we discussed this somewhat at our retreat, setting those expectations that, this is the committee level is where, and it actually says it in council procedures, you know, this is your opportunity as a director or staff to come and kind of vet the unknowns before it comes to full council, so that so that we're setting up our directors for as much success as possible, asking the right questions, poking holes in why they're doing something, and how to improve it before it comes to full council. Doesn't always work that way. We've also had ones where we just disagree and we say bring it to full council because this isn't the majority and we're not making an effective progress on it. I appreciate some of the work that we've done in the last couple of years, such as the directors doing memos or reports, monthly reports, to full council via email. I think has been really helpful. I think that I'd be interested to see more of these work sessions. So I think this is a good example to try it out. But I do think that our committees do a lot of really good work. The public is more than welcome to come to those committee meetings. They are open. So there is transparency to a certain degree, but we also still need to have robust discussions at full council. So I look forward to, maybe we can get a date for when we need to submit all of our suggestions before it comes to a work session.
All right, Miss Hubick went with 6 to 8 weeks. I like it. I like that for the actual workshop. So I'm thinking 3 weeks. If somebody gives me a date 3 weeks out to have those. And while I'm thinking that, this is open for public comment, and I want to make sure those who hung out here can come on up and weigh in on this subject. Yeah, come on up. While we're doing some math with some dates that might work for council, and maybe Mayor Pro Tem can verify that.
We're Mackenzie, Anacortes. I appreciate the openness of the council to take a look at their operations and consider how they might be improved. And I think particularly with regard to the discussion about the committee meetings, clearly there are some trade-offs. I mean, there's some inefficiencies when you have meetings of the whole with a team, and there also is, on the flip side, the potential for undue influence by minority groups of a leadership committee when they're doing work with staff who might be taking guidance from those meetings. So I think that all being said, I really come down on the side of transparency and say that the more public these meetings are, the more accessible they are, then the more support you're going to get for the decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, more comments on this one?
Mayor Miller?
Oh, sorry, Ms. Moulton.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to mention, just for everyone, so everyone knows that our committee meetings are advertised on the city website. They're all posted there, and they can be found there constantly. So check them out. Come to them.
All right, any more members of the public before I turn it back to council? Okay. So we have a date that we can
So 5 weeks, oh, Mayor Miller?
publicly shame ourselves for not making the date on time. That's the purpose of putting these dates out.
So Monday, August 25th is 5 weeks from now. 6 weeks from now is Labor Day. So what if we basically end of August? Friday, August 8th?
Yeah, did deadline, so you're talking for the actual meeting, Ms. Moulton and Ms.
No, I
Hubick,
was
or
talking
you're-
for submitting our
Okay.
comments. I thought we were doing 6 to 8 weeks for the actual meeting.
Yes, correct. Yeah, 3 weeks
Okay.
from today.
So that would be Monday, August 11th.
There we go. Dates to deviate from, but
The
we
11th
can,
and the 25th. The 11th for submission of
Yeah.
our lists, and the 25th for our work session.
any objections from council on those? So,
No, Mayor Miller?
Mr. Fantini.
No objection. But question, who are we submitting these lists to? Because obviously we're not going to send them all to each other.
So I would say definitely copy me on that, and Ms. Shue and Ms. Swetnam.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to compile, we've already compiled some of them already, so I'm happy if you want to CC the three of us, that would be great. We'll get it ready for a discussion on the 25th.
Thank you.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
I apologize. I would like to be part of this. I will not be there on the 25th. So if there's any possibility that we can move it to that first weekend, the first Tuesday in September, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we have some room that we're target 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? All right.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Oh, no, I'll be here on the first Tuesday.
All right, well.
No, I'm good.
Thank you for that input. All right. No further business before the council. I'll adjourn tonight's meeting. Have a great night.